fantasy sports. No MME, no 150 max, lower management fees than any other site, 0% management fees if you get in early on the $3 every single day. Some solid PGA contests coming up for tomorrow. And, of course, baseball contests being run every single day. The 10K MLB guarantee tonight. And you can get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points by signing up through us at awesemo.com. A very simple way to do it. Go to the homepage, awesemo.com. Click on the Spotlight Hitters article, and you will see that link. Simple. Spotlight Hitters article on the homepage, one of the fun articles. Click the link and use the sign-up code AWESEMO to get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. Essentially, up to $30 in free money. They just call them Yahoo Sports rewards points. And you can use them as currency on the site to play, win, and withdraw money. It's Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. Here we go, boys. Dave Lochran, Adam Scher, Alex Baker. So we have a lot to talk about today. 16 teams last I looked, Alex, with an implied run total of 5 or higher.
Yeah, I mean, 5 is like the new standard, and especially now that we're hitting those hotter months, there's kind of a heat wave across the country. I'm not that surprised. We've been seeing some of the highest totals we've ever seen in Coors recently, like 8+, and I think there's one again tonight. So if you like batting, then you love fantasy baseball in 2009 at this time of year.
Yep, 2019 too.
Oh, 2019. I'm a little bit behind. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, I had reached out to you guys today. Usually when it's this many games, we start early anyway. But Wednesday, you almost always doesn't have this many on a night slate. And I said, look, we definitely have to start at 4:45 today, just based on the amount of hitting that's on this slate.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was you or EMAC that compared baseball right now to how basketball's evolved over the last year.
That was me talking about the totals that have consistently. Yeah. That was me. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's the perfect.
And careful there, pal. I love you, EMAC. No, yeah, it's everything's changing. But like you said it yesterday, the juiced ball era is, not having an effect.
Right, exactly. Yeah, juiced ball, warmer temperatures, pitchers, hitters trying to hit home runs now, whereas they didn't in the past. More of them bought into the make contact philosophy, and now they don't. So fly balls, juice balls, hot weather, it's just a lot of runs.
Who's the Reds pitcher that hits home runs like crazy? Lorenzen? He's nuts. Anyway.
So I didn't go back and look recently, but I saw, I think it was Inosaurus post on Twitter a couple weeks ago that Zach Greinke has like the highest barrels per batted ball event percentage for a hitter among, X amount of balls in play.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, but he's always hit well.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? How many of his initial years were in the AL?
Yeah, his first, 7 years or whatever with Kansas City.
Yeah, he didn't come to the NL until 2011, which is pretty insane. And also, I mean, not to get into the weeds, but a 22% K rate for Greinke, pretty solid. What, a little bit worse than league average? Pretty solid hitter. All right, let's jump into it, fellas. Again, a ton of hitting. And Alex, you're right. I mean, it is the new standard, but 16 teams of 28. I mean, that's just getting out of control. It won't be more than a few years when Chris Sale is still the elite pitcher of the league and he only allows 8 runs per game.
Well, the crazy thing is, although run production is up, strikeouts are up just as much. Yep. So pitchers today just get even more fantasy points than they did before too.
Yeah, no question. And I mean, I don't want to say you associate home runs with strikeouts, but like Adam said, more players aiming for home runs. I would assume that more strikeouts would come along with that as well, not just trying to poke the ball down the left field line. Velocity
up with the new balls too.
Yeah, sure. All right, Pittsburgh, Chicago Cubs. Adam, let's jump into it. Yu Darvish, Chris Archer. Pitching is really not great on this slate, which leads you to look at someone like Archer, who strikes righties out at 25%, but has also just been, really bad at the power department against them this season. A double-edged sword here, a good park, but once again, Well, here's the interesting thing. You would think there'd be 4 righties in the lineup because Victor Caratini's in there, but what is it? No Hayward today, so still only 3 lefties. I might have said righties, but I meant lefties, and 6 righties and a pitcher. So it is at least an upside spot for Archer. What are your thoughts on him here?
Yeah, I mean, decent upside. The price tag's fair, but I'm still not really getting to a whole lot just because I don't really have him projected that well. The Cubs are a good offense, 110 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. Only a 22.6% strikeout percentage, but also a 9.9% walk percentage for their active roster, which puts them 5th highest. And Archer gives up power. He also walks a lot of guys. It's just, I think, pretty unlikely that you get a clean game from Archer. You know, the strikeouts might be there, but we know he's going to give up power. We know he's going to put guys on base. And the only sites where the sites where he's more appealing, because you have to roster 2 pitchers, also deduct points for walks. So it lowers his projection there as well. I would rather get to some Cubs bats here, I think.
What about you, Alex? Pitching matchup between Archer and Darvish.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some pretty high totals for these pitchers. I mean, Archer these days isn't that great, but he's not bad, and Darvish is a little bit better than average. So we're seeing this over under of 10, and we gotta think that this is not good weather for pitching. On the other hand, there just aren't a lot of good pitchers in that price range. So on a 2-pitcher site, maybe you'd consider either of these guys. Darvish, the problem is the Pittsburgh lineup these days doesn't have very easy Ks. And then Archer, the team total of the Cubs is 5.6, so that it really is a red flag.
Okay. What about hitters, Alex? Anybody jump out to you here?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of great values on both sides. I feel like a broken record recommending Kyle Schwarber, but just the number of plate appearances, the power, I mean, you got all of it. Pretty much you can get him on DraftKings in your cash lineup every single slate he's on. And then on FanDuel and Yahoo, the bottom of the Cubs lineup is super, super cheap, so like them. On the Pittsburgh side, Adam Frazier leading off is $10 on Yahoo, so that's a really great value. And I think the first 5 batters or so make a nice stack.
Okay. Adam, who do you turn to as far as hitters? You said you'd like to get some bats. Who stands out to you specifically in this game?
Yeah, I mean, as far as full stacks go, neither one of these teams is my favorite. But I do like Schwarber, like Alex said. The price tag just isn't as it should be against the pitcher and Archer who gives up power. Schwarber's been, league average in terms of overall production, but he still has an ISO over 200 this year. Anthony Rizzo is inexpensive. Victor Caratini gives you a reasonably priced catcher batting 5th. And then on the other side, Darvish does have good strikeout stuff, but he gives up power as well, particularly to lefties. And you have a $3,600 Adam Frazier leading off. You have Corey Dickerson, who's cheap and has plenty of power. Josh Bell's expensive, but monstrous upside from him. So I think the Pirates actually are a stack that probably goes completely overlooked, especially since they have a lower implied run total even than the Cubs in this game. But the combination of price, speed, and power amongst the top of this order is actually pretty appealing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Let's keep moving then. We've got so much to talk about here. Toronto and Boston. Alex, you have Chris Sale and Wags Pack. How do I pronounce that one, Adam?
I have no idea.
I think the key is nobody knows how, so you just say whatever it is with confidence, and then you just you're influencing like the pronunciations that everyone uses, so just make it up, man.
Right. When I don't know how to pronounce a name, I either say it like really low, you got Jacob Wings, right? So then everyone's like, well, he must have got it right. There is no pronunciation on Baseball Reference. We'll call him Wags Pack. But anyway, you've got Chris Sale on the mound for Boston. His last couple starts, Alex, haven't been great, slightly underwhelming by his own standards, but not including Clevenger. He's got the highest strikeout rate on the slate by like almost 7%. He's expensive, but he's also extraordinarily good. And Toronto's a high strikeout team. I mean, look, Sale's got the 3rd lowest xFIP in the league, and that was after a brutal start to the season, which goes to show he got a little bit unlucky there, even though his fastball wasn't great. How are you approaching Chris Sale here on a 14-gamer?
I think you gotta like him. With so many great batting teams on the slate, I think you can find some good values to get him in there. And I mean, his strikeout number of 36% on the year is pretty awesome, and the Blue Jays strike out just around the league average, so that's a good sign. The price tag is as high as you're going to pay for pitching these days, so I mean, you're getting what you pay for. One factor that's going against them is that the roof is open in the Rogers Center today, and I think that the 80-degree temperature at first pitch with 55% humidity is not great for pitching. But I mean, he's got a matchup versus a team that's average, and he's a elite pitcher. So I think that you can expect him to have pretty good potential tonight.
All right, Adam, we've basically talked about Chris Sale at length every single show when he's on it. Just in that, most slates, you just play him and move on. This slate's interesting because it's a Coors slate with an 8-run total for Houston, but also some pitchers that are really cheap. So how do you square that one out? I mean, you can fit Sale with a dirt cheap pitcher and still get Houston, Rocky, Boston stacks in. Do you see yourself doing a lot of that?
Yeah, because so there's a couple things here. For one, Sale's clearly the number 1 pitcher on the slate in terms of talent, but also there's such a weak mid-range of pitching. There's a few other quality arms, but for the most part, it's guys in questionable spots or with questionable talent or both. So paying down at SP2 doesn't even have a lot of opportunity cost. Those guys don't really have to do that great when you factor in the bats that you get. But then also with there being 28 offenses, there's plenty of underpriced bats as well that make it pretty easy to get to Sale. So I think that from a roster construction standpoint, it just sets itself up as a slate that it's really advantageous to roster Sale, because if you're stacking, one of the Coors teams or one of the really expensive offenses, then you go down and just kind of hope for the best with a cheap pitcher. But on some of the other offenses, you can fit Sale plus a better pitcher and still get to whatever hitters you want. So it's just a slate where I'm not having trouble getting Sale into lineups.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it at all, Alex. Like usually you would think Sale would be tough to get. He isn't that tough. Are you of the same belief here?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons he's easier to get to today also is that the other options are pretty bad. So it's not like you have 2 really underpriced guys and then you can pay up for bats. It's a pretty big opportunity cost to go for a guy who is cheaper, but not nearly as talented.
What about hitters, Adam? Boston is going up against Wags here, and that sounds a lot better. And they have a 6+ run implied total, so it seems like a pretty favorable spot.
Yeah, I love the Red Sox here. They're on DraftKings. Their pricing is just absurd how cheap they are. So I think that they'll get more ownership there than on other sites. But with it being a 14-game slate, that's still going to be relatively low ownership, especially as far as a full stack goes. So I'll be getting to a lot of them there, but also on FanDuel and Yahoo, where they aren't as cheap. They're still perfectly reasonable against a pitcher who doesn't have a ton of success at AAA. Now he's coming up to face the Red Sox. So yeah, I have no issues with Boston.
Alex, are you loading up on Boston hitters tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, on DraftKings, they are really underpriced. On FanDuel and Yahoo, much more reasonably priced. So actually, I've been kind of leaning more towards stacks that are a little bit higher priced and not the obvious value. And the ownership on DraftKings doesn't seem so high. You can't go there tonight, though. So not my favorite stack because it's not contrarian at all, but I think that they're a great projection.
Adam, favorite bats from this Boston lineup: Betts, Devers batting second, Bogarts, Martinez, Benintendi, Vasquez, a very cheap Bradley, Michael Chavis batting eighth, and then Brock Holt. Which guys you like the best?
You just name them. But,
nice. I see what you did.
yeah, but I mean, really, it's.
But in all seriousness,
I mean, it's Betts at 4,400, then JD, then Devers, then.
All right, let me rephrase it. How cool? How all right are you at the bottom of the order?
I actually like the bottom of the order because Jackie Bradley's cheap and has power. Christian Vasquez has made improvements as a hitter and has power. Michael Chavez has power. Really, the only guy in this lineup that doesn't have power is Brock Holt.
Right.
And I think that it gives you the opportunity to be contrarian within this stack because we know Mookie's going to have we know the top 4, top 5 are going to have tons of ownership. But once you start getting down to Vasquez, Bradley, Chavez, Holt, they're just going to have lower ownership because of their spot in the order.
Alex, let me throw this next one to you. We've got John Means on the mound. And for Tampa Bay, it looks like Alex or Adam, can you do me a favor? I'll ramble for a second so you can pull it up. See, I know you got a new computer now, so I'm not asking the world of you. Can you can you pull up the tweet from earlier today that you had showed me this morning regarding the Tampa Bay Rays situation?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I don't remember who tweeted it.
Well, check my Slack, or I'll just check Slack. I forgot what you sent it to me. All right, so I got it. Mark Topkin. So, Alex, Mark Topkin today of the Tampa Bay TB Times said Rays are planning tonight more as an old school. I mean, sentence structure is not his forte. Rays are planning tonight more as an old school bullpen day with no designated bulk inning guy. Pruitt would be available for length. So, I mean, this is really a tough one to decipher. And, I mean, Pruitt's dirt cheap. He was obviously just recalled, but I'm not necessarily sure this tells us a whole lot.
I think it tells us enough that we don't really want Pruitt. I mean, this guy. That's a good enough take, yeah. This guy kind of sucks at pitching, and he's not even guaranteed to go deep in the game at all. So I don't really see much reason to go there. And there are a couple of guys that I think are much more reliable at a low price tag, not quite as low, but I definitely don't think it's worth kind of going for this guy that, I mean, this guy's a beat reporter. He's going to be the person who's the expert on this situation. And it would be kind of arrogant if we came in here and we're like, no, it's actually going to be like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he generally does a pretty good job, too.
Does he? Topkin does?
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, it's unclear. So, I mean, look, I had mentioned to you today that I initially was getting Pruitt in lineups and then kind of axed that just based on knowing absolutely nothing. What's your take on the pitching matchup between John Means, who, hey, maybe we weren't wrong. Maybe he is all right. And Austin Pruitt maybe pitching 2 or 3 innings.
Yeah, I mean, Means obviously one of the best pitchers in baseball, given his all-star status, but not someone I'm looking to get to here. Tampa Bay is missing most or all of their lefties. Only Joey Wendell and Kevin Kiermaier in the lineup.
Oh my God, he actually made the All-Star game?
Yeah.
Oh
is that like affirmative action for Orioles or something?
Like they had to have one guy go. You would think it would be Trey Mancini, but I guess it was just easier to throw an Orioles pitcher onto the roster than to make room for Mancini.
I love that. Alex just called it affirmative action for baseball. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You said it, and I was like, wait, he might be serious.
Yeah, no, he actually did make the All-Star team.
Is every team forced to send one guy at least?
Yeah.
It's not like that for every sport, though.
Right? Well, I don't think so. Maybe.
Like, there's no way the Knicks sent anyone to the All-Star game.
Right.
Well, not last year.
Right. Yeah, so baseball, I know for sure that every team's represented. Yeah, so I mean, if Means were cheaper, then I'd have a little bit of interest because I think he's a decent pitcher. But this lineup's really right-handed heavy. The strikeouts for him have really come against lefties this year. His run prevention stats are pretty clearly unsustainable. So I'm not looking to pay up for Means. And then on the other side, we have no idea what's going on with pitching.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna avoid this one entirely. But at the same time, I don't know, Adam. I have enough respect for Means where I'm not super high on Rays bats on a day where, again, 16 teams have 5+ implied totals. You can be a little bit picky here and still diversify. Like, you can be picky and still be different. I don't know if this is the spot I want to do it. Alex, do you like the Rays here against John Means?
Yeah, I think there are some players that are exceptionally priced today. Number one, obvious one is Travis d'Arnaud leading off. I mean, whenever you get a catcher leading off, you gotta like that, and he's cheap. So I think on DraftKings, especially, he's probably a good cash play. On FanDuel, since you don't have to have a catcher, still a good play, but not great. This other guy, Mike Brosseau, is making his major league debut, batting 6th, and he's basically the min price on FanDuel, and I don't think he's on Yahoo, but on DraftKings he's under 3K, so that he makes a really nice play. And I think most of the team is above average value, so you can make a really nice projected lineup here.
Okay. Yeah, you said Brosseau batting 6th there is really, really cheap. So I totally understand that. You're not wrong, though. Like, the value is here. It's been here with this team for the past couple of days. We've seen a lot of their prices drop. Adam, do you want to add anything to hitting on either side before we move on?
I second that d'Arnaud is clearly on the short list of cash catchers on DraftKings. Also, Michael Brosseau at AAA this year has a 273 ISO, 151 WRC plus. Last year at AA, 186 ISO, 117 WRC plus. Appears to be in the Dan Vogelbach mold, 5'10", 215 pounds.
No neck?
I don't know what he looks like, but he's 5'10", 215.
Right. He needs to have no neck.
Right. So I think that he's got some pretty decent power for his price tag.
Well, now you know I have to look him up. Now I gotta see what this guy looks like. I'm sure this is well, he's a pretty normal looking fella. Pretty normal looking guy. He actually has a headshot on DraftKings already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting. All right, let's talk about Cincinnati and Milwaukee. I'll stay with you, Adam. Sonny Gray, Jhoulys Chacin. So just to set this up a little bit, I wrote Sonny Gray up today in the deep dive, which you can find on awesomeo.com, just because he had been so good against lefties, 31+% strikeout rate, 243 ice, WOBA, 123 ISO, really good numbers. And Great American Ballpark, he's actually done a decent job of keeping the ball in the yard. I expected him to face a lot of lefties today and good ones, but also a team that has a top 8% or a top 8 K rate against righties on their active roster. However, we've seen a massive adjustment in terms of what this lineup looks like. And I mean, obviously I had more interest in FanDuel and Yahoo where Sonny Gray was underpriced. He's 92 on DraftKings, but now you're getting a lineup without Yelich and without Yasmani Grandal. I mean, that's a meteoric shift in projection from just 2 hitters.
Yeah, no question about it. You know, so you have fewer left-handed bats in the lineup now, and you mentioned the strikeout percentage against lefties, but it's not like he's been bad against righties.
No, not at all.
Right, he still has a 22.5% strikeout percentage, 119 expected ISO, 296 expected WOBA, so he's still been good. And if you look at this lineup, you know, at the top you have Kane, Moustakas, Braun. All 3 of those guys are tough to strike out, and they're good enough hitters. But once you get past that, you know, Eric Thames has a 30+% strikeout percentage, so does Castanera. Ben Gamble's around 23 to 24%. Saladino's north of 30. Pena's only around 20, but he's not a good hitter. And then you have the pitchers. So the lineup just gets so much weaker without Yelich or Grandal. And then even going from Arcia to Saladino is a downgrade as well, at least or an upgrade for Gray, at least in terms of strikeout percentage. So whereas when I did the show this morning, I was very interested in Gray on FanDuel and Yahoo, like you said. Now I'm interested in him on every site. I don't think it's a secret that I think he's a really, really good pitcher. If you look at his PCRA this year, the pitchers around him are Giolito, Greinke, Castillo, Syndergaard, Carrasco, Fried, Kershaw, Caleb Smith, Marquez. He's like sandwiched in the middle of that group. I don't think anyone would be questioning any of the price tags that Gray's available at against this Milwaukee lineup if it were like any of those other pitchers. It's just that he kind of has like a negative connotation in people's minds because of his time with the Yankees.
Well, we've got Sonny Gray on the bump, Alex, and Jhoulys Chacin on the other side. It is a no question. Like I would be remiss to not mention the fact that Cincinnati, a Great American, is a very good hitter's park. It's 88 degrees there, pretty humid too. So, I mean, the conditions are working against Sonny Gray. The Milwaukee Brewers manager is working for Sonny Gray.
Well, the weather forecast I'm looking makes this look like one of the cooler games. Like on Google, it says 77 around first pitch.
Oh, I see 86.
Yeah, so I guess which app are you looking at?
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll pull up another one and we'll break the tie while you talk.
All right, sounds like a plan. I think I mean the matchups. Okay, it's about average. I have the Brewers lineup today projected for slightly better than average on base and ISO and batting average, slightly below average Ks, but just around average on every single category. So I'm not really Adam, I know you mentioned this before the show, but Chastain, not a great, not an easy out, strikeout, I guess, for Gray. So that's a knock against him, where a lot of people might not realize that. So I think I have to agree with you that on FanDuel and Yahoo, much better priced, especially on Yahoo. But on DraftKings, I think I'm going to try and find that extra 1,000 or 2,000 to spend up for Bueller or Sale if I'm going expensive at that spot.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's where I'm at as well. By the way, 79 degrees according to weather.com.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of 90-degree games these days, or this week. A little bit of a heat wave, so I was a little surprised that I wasn't one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Some rain concerns there too.
What'd you say?
There are some rain concerns in this game too.
Is that right? Are there? I didn't
pop-ups kind of in the area. Last I saw, it looked okay.
I think like later in the night now.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking off of this. I haven't, really. Oh, you know what? There are. It looks like it's in the clear. It's sandwiched in between a bunch of storms, but nothing in Cincinnati right now. Not until like midnight.
Okay, cool.
But I think it's pretty humid there. Look, I think Sonny Gray doesn't matter. The price on Yahoo and FanDuel makes a lot of sense. Adam, do you like hitting in this game? Cincinnati going up against Jhoulys Chacín. They are one of the 16 teams that has a 5+ total. It's at 5.3 right now. Where do you fall on a team like the Reds?
So I think the Reds are the most appealing on FanDuel because, for one, they're very affordably priced. You have Scooter Gennett batting cleanup at 2,900. He's, I think, a good play on any site, but they're easier to stack on FanDuel because Chacín has struggled with power from either side of the plate this year. But we know he has a very long track record of limiting right-handed power. So the bats that you're going to prefer are the lefties. But on DraftKings and on Yahoo, you can only get a maximum 2 of Joey Votto, Scooter Gennett, and Derek Dietrich into your lineup. And if I'm stacking the Reds, I would really like to be getting those 3 guys kind of to anchor my lineup. So I think that FanDuel, where you can use that utility spot, it's a little bit more appealing. But, lefty power here with Winker, Gennett, Dietrich, if you get to those guys as one-offs against Chacín, I still think that's fine.
Alex, do you have any interest in these Cincinnati bats? Like you said, it's not 100 degrees there, but all in all, it's still a quality hitting environment.
Yeah, I mean, one of the 16 teams we should be looking at tonight, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, I think one guy that really jumps out is Eugenio Suarez on Yahoo at $10. The rest of on FanDuel, they're all priced pretty well, so the ownership will be high, but I think it's probably a good chalk. And on DraftKings, I think the ownership's a lot lower, so I like that as kind of a contrarian play.
Okay. Either of you have interest in Milwaukee bats against Gray?
Not a ton for me. Just, I mean, obviously, I think Gray's very, very good, but also it's kind of just like, where are you going in this lineup now? The top 5 all have power, but then you drop off pretty quickly.
Alex, talk to me about the Mets and Yankees. Domingo Germán, good pitcher, but you had mentioned that I don't know how I get to him over Sale or Bueller. And then Jason Vargas, is he the all-star candidate for the Mets, or is it Pete Alonso? I mean, in all seriousness, he's been one of the biggest surprises this season, and I feel pretty confident saying that. That, however, does not mean that I'm buying into it. I mean, I just have a very tough time believing that this type of production is sustainable across the course of the season. But hey, he's halfway through, if not more, and he's still chugging along. But his xFIP against righties is 5.35. There's just so many things that point towards an eventual breakdown. You're the expert here. There is no Stanton and there is no Luke Voit, but it's still a power-laden team that can just, put up runs or home runs from pretty much anywhere in the lineup. If you want to talk about pitching, that's fine. If you're not interested in either pitcher, let's go straight to the Yanks.
Yeah, I'm not on either one. Herman is coming off an injury, and he's priced pretty high. And then Vargas, the matchup kind of sucks. Yankees are above average in every relevant category, even with this lineup. So I'm not really there.
Yeah. What about hitters?
Hitters, I think the Yankees, you got to look at them on FanDuel. They're priced up way high. So I think that is going to be super contrarian. We have them at 1% ownership with a 6 team total. That's going to be a high upside spot. The only question is, you're going to not like your pitcher or your other stack. So are you willing to stomach that? And then on DraftKings, the Yankees are a great value on the other hand. So they have way higher ownership. And on Yahoo, they're kind of in between.
All right. Adam, like I said, it's hard to believe that Vargas maintains this production going forward, but I've said that, I swear, every 5 days. So he's got to come back down to earth at some point, no?
You would think. One thing that stood out to me, and I talked about it with Josh this morning, is that I don't generally get too bogged down in pitch type data, but in Vargas's case, he has one pitch that is effective and everything else he throws sucks. His last start was against the Phillies, where if you look, the entire team had an ISO of 100 or lower and high swinging strike percentages against left-handed changeups. Not the case here with the Yankees, where Judge, Sanchez, and Hicks all have had tons of success against the pitch. Encarnacion has as well, but he unfortunately is not in the lineup. My only issue with the Yankees is just that as good as DJ LeMahieu has been, I'm not interested in paying $5,200 for him all that often. Judge, Sanchez, Hicks, Torres are all really good plays. Gregorius lefty, Ursula is okay, Gardner is not appealing, and then you get the pitchers. So not as deep a lineup as you normally get for the Yankees, but I especially like that 2 through 5 part.
So do I. I mean, having Voit and Stanton would be really, really nice, but like you said, and I totally agree on that LeMahieu price tag, but Judge still, Gary Sanchez, both of them crush lefties. Aaron Hicks is not very expensive. Gleyber Torres batting 5th. That does seem like the sweet spot of this lineup, Alex. But do you find yourself going lower than that to the 6, 7, and 8, which is a whole lot less appealing?
Not as much, because Gregorius and Gardner have the negative split. So that's going to make them not nearly as high upside. But Gregorius still is a good value in DraftKings. So I might consider that. But yeah, I think you can play Gardner and Ursula as super contrarian picks. But I mean, I wouldn't be excited about it.
Okay. Either of you have anything else to add here? Any interest in Mets bats against Herman?
I don't.
I see this guy Robinson Cano at 2.7K and 7 on Yahoo. Have you guys been playing him at all?
Unfortunately.
Okay, so if you have been playing him, maybe you don't want to do it, but if you haven't, now is the time to jump on, buy low.
That's a very valid point. If you have been playing him, you're disappointed. Although, actually, not really. He's giving you 8 to 10 a night. Could be worse.
Okay, I didn't even realize that. Everyone was complaining about losing all this money on him, so I haven't kept up since then.
Ready? Check this out. Robinson Cano has multiple hits in 4 straight games.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, then you gotta ride the hot streak out.
All of them are singles. All right, boys, let's move forward here. Atlanta, Philly, Adam, Bryce Wilson, Nick Pivetta. First of all, Aaron Nola, I don't know if you caught any of that performance last night. The I feel like he is finally back in terms of like the called strikeouts he got. He also got some swinging strikeouts on pitches outside of the zone, but the called strikeouts where he's catching the very outside of the plate and just I know you saw some of that, like the one on Freddie Freeman on McCann. It just looked like vintage Aaron Nola. It's now 3 straight games where he's dropped 30 plus DraftKings points. I feel like people are saying, oh, well, if Nola can do it, so can Pivetta. I get it. Pivetta is really cheap, but this matchup scares the shit out of me. And there are other cheap pitchers that I actually have some interest in. I know that you're usually willing to roll the dice on guys like this, even if they're not super enticing. But the Braves have a 6.1 implied total. Like, are you getting to Nola or to Pivetta?
Not getting the very much. Granted, in my initial crunches, I still had Austin Pruitt in, so maybe a little bit more ownership of my exposure goes to a 6,200 Pivetta on DraftKings, but overall, it's just not a spot that I'm interested in. Strikeouts haven't really been there. Haven't been there at all this year, and he gives up power to both sides of the plate. Now you have an Atlanta team that has a lot of power hitters who are pretty difficult to strike out in what looks like good hitting weather. They have an implied run total over 6. I don't really feel the need to be getting to Pivetta here.
I don't either. Alex, last I looked, though, he is projected to have some ownership.
Yeah, only on DraftKings at 13%. But I think he's not a great strikeout pitcher. The matchup against Atlanta for strikeouts is slightly above average, but he's definitely not going to get enough Ks to make up for the bad run prevention.
Yeah. He's down to 8% on DraftKings now.
Okay, nice.
Updated project. Oh, if you're an Awesemo Plus member, if you have an Awesemo subscription, we just updated the ownership projections 1 minute ago. And there's something in this that really interests me, and we'll get there when we do. I'll make sure to mention it. But Archer is 4th highest projected ownership right now. And Adam, a guy I mentioned to you earlier that I said I would prefer over Cal Quantrill, is also up in the top 5 now. I was hoping that he would go a bit overlooked.
As was I.
Yeah, I know, right? Everyone must have read the deep dive, and look what happened.
me and Josh spent like 10 minutes on him this morning too.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Well, can we just tell everyone not to roster this guy in this show, and then maybe we draft the ownership down?
Please do not roster Ariel Jurado.
I knew that was the guy you guys were talking about.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Hitters here, Adam?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you tell me which hitters, please?
Yeah, no, I mean, so from the Braves, you get a lot of power, obviously. So they're expensive, though, but Acuna, Freeman in particular, I think are really good plays. But I'm getting to a lot of Philly stacks in my early crunches on DraftKings because of their pricing. Bryce Wilson is a good prospect and has a good chance of being a good major league pitcher, but he's not entirely there yet. He is also it's the same good hitting weather that we talked about with Pivetta, and the Phillies are really, really cheap. Real Muto batting 5th at 3,800, Hoskins at 44, Bruce is cheap, Harper's the most expensive guy, tied with Kingery on DraftKings in the lineup at 4,600. So it's a high upside stack against a young 21-year-old unproven pitcher in Wilson in good hitting conditions. I like Philadelphia quite a bit.
Okay. Now, Alex, you've got implied totals. God, I am absolutely repeating myself today, but I don't have much of a choice. Implied totals through the roof here, 6.1 for Atlanta and 5.5 for the Phillies. You might have them higher. Let me go to that lineup builder so we're on the same page. But I definitely think that runs could be scored in bunches here. It's going to be really warm or really hot in Atlanta. But I also, and maybe I'm wrong, I can pull up the stack tool, see if it's updated, or you can just tell me. I do kind of feel like this won't be the most popular game for hitters.
Yeah, it's kind of flying under the radar here from our ownership projections so far. So I really like, it's a little site specific, but I really like the Braves on DraftKings. On Yahoo, they're super contrarian, but super high price, so maybe a little bit too contrarian. But on DraftKings, you have 3 guys with ownership: Acuna, Freeman, and Donaldson, and the rest of the guys aren't owned. So if you pick maybe 2 out of 3 and then 3 out of the rest of the lineup, you have a pretty contrarian stack. I like that. On FanDuel, Josh Donaldson is underpriced, and I think he's a cash game play at 3K, batting 4th. Just really good power on the year, and a good matchup. So I think that you can definitely play a lot of the Braves today.
One thing that's pretty crazy is when you look at our top stack tool, outside of Houston, well, number one, it's insane that a team on where you have 16 teams with monster totals, it's insane that one team could be that far ahead of everyone else in top stack probability. 19.6%. The next closest team is 7. But, Adam, when you look at this, there are a lot of teams bunched in between that 4 and 7% range. Actually, 3.6 and 7. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams. There are just so many teams that could be at the top today. And it wouldn't even be surprising if you looked at first place through 10th place in a large field tournament and saw so many entirely different lineups that got similar results, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no question. I think it's a really wide open slate for that reason. There is Tampa Bay news so Mark Topkin tweeted, for one, Kevin Kiermaier scratched and Austin Meadows is in the lineup now. But more importantly, 4 minutes ago, he tweeted that Kevin Cash, the Rays manager, said the bullpen is fresh and they plan a lot of mixing and matching after Stanek tonight with Pruitt and Kittredge available for multiple innings. So it really sounds like maybe a couple innings for Pruitt, but nothing. The fact that he mentioned Kittredge too, really.
Right. Yeah, Austin.
Not interested.
Well, maybe. With Kevin Kiermaier's scratch, we got to lock in John Means, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you hate that lefty-lefty matchup for me. Well, I guess he still has it, just against a much better lefty.
Right.
All right, thanks for that, Adam. I think here's what I think it wouldn't be crazy. Now, obviously, it depends on the score, right? If you had 1 and then 3 for Kittredge, 3 for Pruitt, and then your setup man and your closer. But it's so hard to even know. What if they probably won't be losing? It's really not even worth trying to figure out at this point.
Right. You're basically from all the information we have right now, you're trying to hit a nut outcome where Austin Pruitt pitches 3 very effective innings and gets the win. But the rest of the range of outcomes goes everywhere from he doesn't even get in the game to he throws an inning to he sucks to it's just a lot of risk. To me, at this point with the information we have, I don't think Pruitt is any riskier than the guy pitching for Toronto against Boston.
No. But let's kind of quantify that. How risky is the guy pitching for Boston?
No, he's very risky, but it's just that at least he's going to start the game and he's going to pitch.
Right, for sure. Oh, you meant any more risky? You made it sound like Pruitt was appealing over Wagner. No.
I was saying at this point, I would rather just take my chances with the 4K guy pitching against the Red Sox that I know is going to throw a baseball today.
Right. Okay. Oh, man. Texas and LA, Alex. Griffin Canning, Ariel Dorado, our favorite low-end play. I'm joking. Please don't. I don't need any. We don't need any YouTube comments later. Angels have 12 runs in the second, assholes. But anyway, Canning is very good, or at least has the potential to be very good. I buy into his stuff. Just watch 1 or 2 of his starts and you'd be like, okay, this guy will probably be solid. But not exactly a spot I'm enthusiastic about. You've got, Shin-Soo Choo, Calhoun, Andrews, Gallo, Mazzara, Cabrera, Odor, Guzman, Fedorowicz. Is it an amazing lineup? No, but factor in the park, factor in the weather, and then it starts to get a little bit more, a little murkier for somebody like Canning. And then with Ariel Dorado, really not much needs to be said on him. The LA Angels have an implied run total of 6.1 on this slate, 5.5 for the Rangers, and 11.5 over under. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I think this is a game where, I think bats, Canning's decent, but this is a really bad spot for pitching. and I think that the Angels have some really good values on all three sides. The Rangers are well priced on Yahoo and FanDuel, but on DraftKings they're a bit more expensive. But I think the ownership's going to be high in this game too, so I'm not super enthusiastic about either of these stacks.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at too. I do respect Canning. Texas clearly has a ton of power in their lineup and a lot of left-handed bats here as well with the platoon advantage. So I don't have any issue with Texas, but it's just not the most appealing stack to me in terms of ownership and projection. And then on the other side, you know, the Angels with the really high implied run total in a great park, I'm getting more of them than Texas, but a lot of that's just driven by the fact that I love Trout, Ohtani, and then one of Upton or Calhoun more so than it is the rest of their lineup.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the pricing isn't outrageous. Like some of these guys, it makes it easier to get them in, but Texas still has some pricey bats. And then on the opposite side, we're finally seeing Ohtani's price tag come up to where it should be. If you're Adam, I know you kind of just talked about it, but like if you're stacking the Angels, it's likely that you're going to have your entire outfield occupied by the Angels in probably most of those stacks.
Yeah, their lineup just came out. We do have Justin Bour batting 5th and Andrelton Simmons batting 6th. Both of those are pretty appealing because
that's really appealing, actually.
Yeah, you know, Bour you get a ton of upside, and Simmons you just get a pretty decent hitter that's inexpensive at shortstop. So the lineup the Angels are running out. And they've got Calhoun leading off instead of Fletcher. They're running out like the best lineup we could have asked for.
The only downside to Bour is his price tag on DraftKings is inflated.
Yeah, I mean it's the same as Rhys Hoskins.
Right, but you could make sense of it. He's only $14 on Yahoo and $28 on FanDuel, so that's pretty appealing. Alex, let's talk about the hitters a little bit here, or a little bit more here. Are either of these teams popping for you as top stacks? And look, I keep resorting back to talking about how many teams there are and how spaced out the top projected or top stack probability is. But of all of the teams going, the Angels do have, you know, one of the highest top stack probabilities with pretty equal ownership to that percentage.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be one of the most popular stacks and one of the best tonight. The tough thing about the Angels usually is that there's only like they have the most like difference between their top batters and their worst batters in the league probably, where it's like they have like 5 guys with really good fantasy value and the rest of the lineup usually kind of sucks. These conditions are really good for bats, so maybe that problem is mitigated a little bit and you can get a guy like Fletcher who doesn't have like good power or stolen base upside, or maybe go to the bottom of the lineup. But if your plan is basically take Trout, take Ohtani, take Upton, you're going to end up with the same lineup as a lot of other people.
Okay. Do we have anything else to add on this game based on it being a really very high projected scoring game?
I don't.
All right. Let's keep moving it on then. We've got 7 to go. We are halfway through. White Sox, Detroit. Adam, the guy that I was referring to earlier is Tyler Alexander. I don't think it's a crazy idea here against the White Sox. Just to run a couple of numbers out there, just pulling it from today's deep dive. I think he endured some bad luck at AAA. Not saying he's great, but his ERA was 2 runs lower than his xFIP was 2 runs lower than his ERA. He struck out 26% of batters. He only walked 5% of batters, and he's thrown 95 pitches or more in 5 of his last 6 starts. So I do think there's merit to adding Tyler Alexander to the discussion. And one of the biggest reasons for that, tell me if you disagree, is that Cal Quantrill is now projected to have the 2nd highest ownership on DraftKings. I get it. I'm not saying, 3rd highest. I'm not saying I don't, but the Giants are very capable of running 6-7 lefties out there. He has been god-awful against lefties. So I do think it could be a bit of a trap spot for Quantrill, just given that he's not very good. Neither are the Giants, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them put some runs up here. I don't think Alexander's any riskier than Quantrill, and I might actually say he's less risky based on his strikeout upside.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I dug into him a bit when I was doing the show with Josh this morning. Someone in YouTube chat had pointed out that he changed his arm angle this season, and so I found articles about it. His strikeout percentage this year at AAA is 25.8%. And last year at AAA, it was 15%. Alex mentioned it on the show, I think yesterday or the day before, that strikeout rates stabilize quickly, so you can generally trust them by this point. And I agree with that. And then it makes me feel even better when you look and there's an actual reason for it. But also he said that at the beginning of the season, he was struggling, giving up a lot of runs, and it really just had to do with he was trying to make these adjustments and he wasn't comfortable yet with what he was doing, and that his pitching coach kept working with him, and now he's at a point where he is comfortable, and he's been pitching a lot better over his last 5-6 starts. You've, for the most part, seen better results. And like you said, fully stretched out, facing a White Sox team that'll strike out. He's inexpensive. There's obviously risk here, but his profile is that he doesn't have a great fastball in terms of velocity, but he has excellent command. He's got a good changeup. He has an average slider. So the stuff's okay. The command is great. And he's made improvements to get more deceptive, and that's increased his strikeout percentage.
Okay. I agree. Good stuff there. Good analysis. Alex, where do you land on Tyler Alexander here against the White Sox?
I mean, I think he's a good play only because the slate is lacking of other values. I have him as slightly below average value at 5,700 on DraftKings. I don't think he's on FanDuel or Yahoo. But the strikeout matchup is good. The White Sox lineup today strikes out. Well, have we gotten the lineup yet? I'm not sure. But no lineup yet, but the projected lineup strikes out more than average. The team total of 5.9 is really concerning, so I don't think Tyler Alexander is safe at all. The ownership is kind of reasonable though, so I think I could see myself ending up on him just solely due to a lack of other options.
Yeah, I don't think he's safe. I just don't think he's less safe than Cal Quantrill. Yeah,
Quantrill has like totally different issues where it's like he came out of the bullpen a couple days ago, like 3 days ago, and that makes me really wonder if he's going to go deep in the game. But Tyler Alexander, I'm not really worried about that. I'm just worried that he's going to give a lot of runs.
Right.
All right. By the way, somebody just said that Jaime Barria is starting for the Angels. Isn't he in AAA?
I saw that too, yeah. As far as fantasy, I don't think it makes a big difference because Texas is such a rough ballpark tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it makes a bit of a difference just going from Griffin Canning, but I don't think that's right, is it?
I saw it on my timeline a few different places.
That it's Barria?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I guess they brought him back up then. All right. What about hitters here, Adam?
Detroit is, I mean, so both teams are interesting because we certainly don't know exactly what we're getting with Alexander. Jose Abreu and Eloy Jimenez, assuming they're in the lineup, stand out from the White Sox. But then on the other side, you're getting Ross Detweiler against the Tigers. Unfortunately, there's not many good bats in the Tigers.
Barria is starting, by the way. Just got the penciled in lineup. Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean that makes Texas a bit more appealing.
Yeah, I think so too. Sorry, go ahead. I just want to make sure we have that taken care of.
Yeah. There just aren't that many good hitters on Detroit. Nick Castellanos would be the one that sticks out against Detweiler. He's affordably priced. Jacoby Jones if he's in the lineup, but I'm guessing something happened in the first game because I'm seeing him listed as questionable.
Alex, you like bats from this one? Detweiler, Alexander, juggernaut battle on the mound in guaranteed rate field.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the matchups for the bats are really good, but I'm worried that the ownership is going to be super high in this game, and some will look for a lower owned game.
Okay. Houston and Colorado. Here we are, fellas. Alex, the over-under on this game is 14.5. That's ridiculous. That's just absurd. It's even more incredible that you look at your top stack tool 20% chance of being the top stack among 28 teams and 15 other teams that are expected to also pour runs across the plate. I mean, it really is incredible. Their ownership, too, this is even crazier. Their ownership projected on DraftKings right now and on FanDuel, and, well, I won't say on Yahoo, but on DraftKings and FanDuel, their ownership is significantly less than the top stack probability against Lambert.
Yeah, I mean, they still are the highest owned team of the slate, so I'm not like that excited. But you gotta love the spot here with that team total well above 8. And I mean, even if they score just 8 runs, like there are gonna be a few guys in this lineup that do really well. So I think you gotta like it. I'll shout out Peter Lambert on Yahoo. You might wish this guy isn't pitching because I have him as a negative projection. I've never seen that before for a starting pitcher.
Does he have a negative projection?
Yeah, I have him for minus 0.3 fantasy points on Yahoo.
That's so crazy, dude. That is so crazy. Oh, man. All right. Adam, I'll go out on a limb here. I don't like to put words in your mouth, but you probably like the Astros today.
Yeah, I think it's okay to roster the Astros.
Okay. All right, good stuff, guys. In all seriousness, though, some of the pricing here is interesting. Like Altuve, still reasonably priced for Coors. Gurriel, Chirinos, Bregman, or not Bregman, Gurriel, Chirinos, and who is the other one? I guess I won't even throw Reddick out there. But you have 3 or 4 guys that are staples of this lineup that are in the mid 4K range on DraftKings at least. And then on the other side, Trevor Story's $4,500 on DraftKings. Pretty insane there. 4,000 flat on FanDuel, and on Yahoo, he's coming in at 21. But that $4,500 price tag is crazy. Go around this game, break down your top plays.
Yeah, some pretty absurd pricing in this game. When you look at Houston, Springer and Bregman are expensive, but they should be expensive anyway. And then everyone else is reasonably priced for Coors. Trevor Story, Wade Miley has certainly made improvements over the last year or 2 years, but Trevor Story at 4,500 in Coors against any left-handed pitcher would be appealing. Same goes for Arenado at 5,300. Desmond at 4,500 is underpriced as well for the ballpark. Blackman, Dahl are just good hitters. Murphy's a perfectly fine hitter. So I think that this game in general is just mispriced. I certainly have respect for Miley, but it doesn't outweigh the fact that Story and Arenado are just mispriced here.
I essentially said the same thing today, that Miley has been good. They've been lucky to have them at the back of their rotation. But does it not feel to you like, now obviously the Rockies could just go off and not a single person would be surprised, but do you like the Rockies more as like a 2-man or like a mini stack with a, say a Desmond in there or something, maybe an Iannetta, and not the entire team? Or do you like the full stacks here paying up for a premium on Blackman and Dahl and Murphy?
I like the full stacks because I think that's the more contrarian approach.
Sure.
I think it'll be really popular to just stack whoever you want, jam in Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado and move on. But it's going to be much less popular to have Charlie Blackman or David Dahl or Daniel Murphy in there.
Okay. Alex, Houston, Colorado, 14.5 run total. It's a silly question, but what stands out to you here? If we're talking about ownership, is there anybody you really like because of their ownership? Is there anyone you don't like because of that? The game's going to be popular. We know that there's going to be a lot of runs. How are you approaching this game?
Yeah, I think maybe with ownership, every single batter on Houston is going to be high on. But a couple of contrarian plays, you could go to lefties against Miley. Blackman and Dahl will have very low ownership respectively to the other players on the team. And if they get Miley out of the game, then that could be a good situation for them. Okay.
Alex or Adam, just to wrap this game up, since there's so much on it, with Houston, is there anything site specific here for you? Obviously, they're great everywhere, but is there anywhere you specifically like them or anybody you like a lot more than the other bats for Houston?
The $4,600 DraftKings tag on Altuve just makes him, I think, like a clear second base cash guy.
Okay. I wish Alvarez was in the lineup over Reddick.
Yep.
But What can you do? Hey, by the way, if you use the sign-up code Deeper Dive, it's funny right now. If you look, the sun is shining. It's right. There's like a circle right on my mouth. It looks really strange. It's the only spot on my head. If you use the promo code Deeper Dive, all one word, when you sign up for an Awesemo Plus membership, you get 50% off your first month straight off the top. 50% off. Use the promo code Deeper Dive, one word. You get the ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool, all of which Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, right here with us today, developed and uses every day for his own lineup, which seem to win a decent amount of money. There's the lineup cruncher or lineup builder, fantasy cruncher add-on articles every day from myself and Adam behind paywall, from Josh, from Jake, from Ben, from Jason, for PGA content, for NASCAR, for everything. We've got it. We even got Summer League content coming up here on awesemo.com. All of that and more. Check the site out. There's some free content. And, of course, you can continue to watch YouTube for free if you're not ready to take the dive. But when you are, remember to use the promo code Deeper Dive, one word, to get 50% off your first month. And we'll see you over there. All right, fellas. Just speed it up a little bit here. KC and Cleveland. Alex, we'll go to you. Mike Clevenger, Danny Duffy. Clevenger really struggled last time out. 2 starts since returning from the IL. He's allowed 12 runs. He struck out 9 batters across 6 1/3 inning. Look, he still is very, very good strikeout stuff. I don't expect him to sustain 45% strikeouts, but hovering around 30% seems pretty reasonable. And he's always been and is very good against lefties. This year, or righties, really, he's only faced 75 batters, but he's struggled almost exclusively against left-handed hitters. The Kansas City lineup today has Mondesi, Gordon, Duda, and Hamilton, and Lopez. So they went a little lefty heavier than normal. It feels tough to get to Clevenger here.
Yeah, I mean, Clevenger is an excellent pitcher, but this isn't a great strikeout matchup. The price tag is a little bit high for facing a team with a 4.4 team total because of the weather, so I'm not really on Clevenger.
Adam, pitcher matchup?
Yeah, same here. As much as I like Clevenger, I have Gray projected higher, and he's less expensive, so that'll keep me from getting too much Clevenger. And then also Kansas City, just not that great of a strikeout matchup. Only 21% against right-handed pitching this season, and like you said, extra lefty in the lineup as well. So it's not that he had a bad start against Baltimore. It's just more so that I don't project him to be as good a play as a lot of the guys around him, whether that's saving a little bit of money and going to Freddie Gray or finding more money for Walker Buehler or Chris Bale.
Okay. What about bats? You like any Indian bats against KC?
Not a ton of interest in Cleveland. Lindor is still fairly priced. So is Ramirez. But I was actually getting to a surprising amount of Danny Duffy in my first DraftKings crunch, and I think that's just a product of him being pretty inexpensive and pitching on this slate not being good. The Indians don't have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if once I kind of narrow my lineups down outside of Cruncher, I lose some Duffy. But he was showing up in Fantasy Cruncher for me.
Do you like hitters or Duffy here, Alex?
2 guys I like. Jose Ramirez is cheap on every site. The season numbers aren't great, but good player career-wise. Lindor is super cheap on DraftKings, so I think he makes a nice cash play.
Okay. Let's keep it rolling. We've got 4 to go. Oakland and Minnesota. Adam, Kyle Gibson, Mike Fiers. Take this one away.
Gibson stands out on FanDuel. He's only 7,100 over there. Not the most appealing matchup against an Oakland team that doesn't have a ton of strikeouts, but it is a right-handed heavy team, and Gibson has struck out about 26% of right-handed hitters this year. And then in addition, you get this game being in Oakland, temperatures in the 60s compared to all these other warm weather games. So I'm not interested in Gibson at 9K on DraftKings, but where you can get him for cheaper, I'm interested. Fiers is just a tough matchup against Minnesota, although they are missing Nelson Cruz and Jorge Polanco, so the lineup's not as good as normal. But overall, I just don't have a lot of interest in this game outside of Gibson on FanDuel.
Yeah, I have virtually no interest in this one. Pretty much a Manny special for me. Maybe Alex has a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I see these ownership totals of 0.3 and 0.7% as a team, and that makes me interested, but only as a contrary play. I prefer Minnesota between the two.
All right. Do you have any specific or just low end or contrarian stacks?
Just because it's so contrarian.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got San Diego and San Francisco, Alex. Sean Anderson, Cal Quantrill. Kind of already discussed this guy. He is projected to have the third highest ownership on DraftKings. And quite frankly, anywhere else, you'd be ridiculous to roster him, or at least it's not advised. I mean, on FanDuel, no. On even at $30 on Yahoo, I don't really see much point to it. But he's $5K on DraftKings. He's facing the Giants at a, I'd say neutral but slightly pitcher-friendly park. And the Giants are very bad against righties. They do, however, as I mentioned, the last time they faced a righty, they had 7 lefties in the lineup. The time before that, they had 6 lefties in the lineup. They're going to undoubtedly run out a lot of lefties here. What do you think we get out of Cal Quantrill today? And does it matter at 5K?
I mean, I'm really worried about the workload because he pitched 3 days ago. It was only like an inning though, so I think what you're gonna see is most likely 4 innings, possibly 5. Not like a lot of fantasy potential, but just because of the price tag and the fact that the Giants suck, he's like the option. That's the decent value. So I think you can play him on DraftKings.
Adam?
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. I have him for between 4 and 5 innings here. I'm not super worried about the workload because outside of the last couple of weeks, he's been a starter. And just throwing, an inning or whatever is kind of like a bullpen. But I wouldn't expect him to be throwing 80 or 90 pitches. Like I think you get, 60 to 75 or somewhere in there. And the Giants don't strike out a lot as is. They're going to have a lot of lefties in the lineup. Quantrill's not a great strikeout guy. It's really just a price play because he's so cheap. And it makes sense. But at the same time, I don't feel like I need to be getting a lot of that guy at really high ownership when it's not actually a high upside spot and it's not like it's that safe. I can take some risks on other lower owned pitchers.
Okay, what about hitters?
Brandon Belt's interesting as a leverage option, probably leading off at 3,800. And then on the other side, Sean Anderson, not really a particularly good pitcher. Franmil Reyes is still really cheap, batting cleanup. So those are the two that stand out.
Alex, do you like hitters from this game?
I could see myself ending up on a leverage stack, but I don't like it.
Okay, fair enough. Let me stay with you here since you didn't have much to say on that last one. Buehler and Kelly, Dodgers and Diamondbacks. Normally you'd be like, oh, well, it's really hard to get to Buehler here because of Sale. But if you really dig into it, man, he has since the start of June, only Scherzer, Sale, and Bieber have higher strikeout rates than Buehler, 33.3%. On the season, only Hyun-Jin Ryu and Greinke have lower walk rates than him. He's averaging 99 pitches per start and 13 pitches per inning over his last 10. The Diamondbacks have the lowest implied total on the slate, and Buehler's a monster 229 favorite. So, there are some things that favor Buehler, and just the fact that if you're saying, oh, well, what about Sale's ceiling? Buehler's ceiling has been astronomical as well.
Yeah, I think they're closer than you might think if you didn't see what happened so far this season. Buehler has been lights out. This matchup's not great for strikeouts, but the price tag is pretty fair given that he's been going so deep compared to how he had been handled by the Dodgers previously, so I like him. And I think you can play the Dodgers too as a contrarian stack. This game though, LA, the West Coast, you got the weather, so that's another reason why you might go to Buehler.
Adam, what about your thoughts on Buehler?
Yeah, I really like Buehler too. Like Alex said, not the best strikeout matchup against the Diamondbacks, but he's just been really, really good this year. 23.6% K-minus BB percentage is the second best on the slate, excluding Clevenger's 15 innings or whatever, behind Sale. Only a 3.7% walk percentage, 27.2% strikeout percentage. The weather here is appealing, like Alex said. So I have no problems getting to Buehler. He's my only pitcher other than Chris Sale projected for over 20 DraftKings points tonight. So certainly looking to get up to one of those two guys. The Dodgers, I like the spot against Merrill Kelly. And obviously there's a ton of talent in the Dodgers lineup, and I don't expect them to be popular. The issue I have is just that, again, this is one of those games that is in cooler weather, and it's kind of tough to get there when there are so many other appealing spots on the plate.
Okay, yeah. Do you have interest in bats here, particularly Dodger hitters, Alex?
Yeah, I think as a contrarian play, they could be pretty nice.
Okay. Let's go to the next one and the last one. By the way, stick around on the Awesemo channel right here on YouTube. You've got Josh Engelman, Chris Spags coming up next, live before lock, taking you till 7:05 Eastern time for this 14-game slate. And before you head out, hit us with a thumbs up. Like the video if you do like the video. I'm not asking you to lie to yourself or anyone else. But if you appreciate the content, you want to see more, and you want to help us support the channel and the site, like the video because it goes a long way, and we really appreciate that. Subscribe and hit the notification bell as well so you always know when new content is dropping next. All right, let's round it out, boys. Adam, kick it off. St. Louis, Seattle, Adam Wainwright, Mike Leake. Hey, Wainwright's really not been terrible, and he's done a whole lot of it by just getting a lot of called strikes, called strikeouts, because he doesn't miss a ton of bats. He hasn't been bad, though. The Seattle Mariners are a garbage baseball team. I don't believe we have a lineup yet. But also paying for Wainwright seems a little bit ill-advised on a slate like this. And then, of course, Mike Leake on the other side against St. Louis. Here's our last game. Start it off, and we'll close it out.
If this game were in St. Louis and it was like hot and humid, I'd be really interested in hitting on both sides. The biggest negative here is that it is in Seattle. It's not warm. But I think the roster construction of these two teams just really sets up well. For one, Mike Leake just gives up power to everyone, and St. Louis has plenty of power in their lineup. They're also very inexpensive. Not a single hitter on DraftKings is over $3,800, and that's Paul DeJong, who is really good. Same goes for Yahoo, where I think DeJong's the most expensive at like $11. So a really good like point per dollar projection stack for the Cardinals. But then on the Mariners side, Wainwright's been absolute trash against lefties this year. 412 WOBA, 264 ISO, 17% strikeout percentage. Most likely 5 lefties in the top 6 for Seattle. Vogelbach in particular stands out. But again, it's just that there are so many other stacks to get to before I get to the Mariners.
Alex, Archer and Darvish have allowed the second most overall home runs on this slate with 18. Mike Leake, though, he says, hold my beer, fellas. He's given up 23 home runs on the season. What do you make, as we round this out, of St. Louis bats just because of how insanely cheap they are?
Yeah, they're just insanely cheap. It's like they thought Felix Hernandez from 2009 was starting this game or something. Like,
yeah, and Paul Goldschmidt was Starlin Castro.
Yeah. I'm really surprised to see a 9.5 team total in Seattle, but we're seeing the ownership numbers are pretty high, like, because the value is so good. So that really cools me down on the Cardinals tonight.
All right, that'll do it for us. Boys, quickly, top stacks. Give me 2, Adam.
Obviously Houston, and then Atlanta.
All right, 2, Alex.
Man, I need to prepare more for this, but hold on, let me.
I should have just never asked you again after the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, that was a mic drop one. Maybe Boston on FanDuel and Yahoo, and then Atlanta on DraftKings.
All right, there you have it. It's been the Deeper Dive. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. But thanks for coming and checking out the show. Don't go anywhere. Live before lock. Josh Spags coming up next. We'll be back with you tomorrow, Adam and myself, to do the Deeper Dive on the 4th of July. Good luck tonight, everyone. We'll catch you back here to close out the last couple days of the week tomorrow.